Welcome into Locked On Phillies. Today, the Phillies have made some big additions to the team in free agency, and so have some other teams in the NL East. We'll talk about the growing interest in the landscape of the division in today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years over on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, NBC Sports Philadelphia on the television, doing a new thing, Philly in 50. You can check that out on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Philly in 50 for all those, or Connor Thomas 975 is my handle. Credentialed member of Philadelphia Phillies Media, and happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also available on YouTube, the Odyssey app. I apologize about missing a couple episodes last week, having some really annoying technical difficulties, but we're back. A bit of a programming note, too, before we jump into today's show. So starting next week, we'll be going into what's technically our off-season schedule. I know you're saying, well, the MLB offseason's been going on for like a month and a half now. Yeah, you're right. But in Locked On, we have our certain number of episodes that we're planning to do per month. And that's switching down to normally during in-season times, we'll do 5 a week. Out of season, we'll do 3 a week. So starting on Monday, so a week from today, we're going to be going down to 3 a week. And for me, that's going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, will there be times where I'll drop a 4th episode a week? Sure. Will there be times where there's big breaking news on Tuesday and that schedule will shift around? Sure. So I'm going to continue to be pumping out content. It'll just be a little bit less because we will be in our off-season programming and because, honestly, a lot of the big moves have been made surrounding the Phillies' interests, at least. So, yeah, we're going to be cutting back just a little bit. Don't worry. As soon as we get back into the season for 2023, we'll be back up to 5, and you'll still be getting plenty of content. But, yeah, that's the plan starting on Monday. Not today, obviously, but next Monday. So this will be our last week with 5 full episodes until the 2023 season starts. Now, we know the Phillies have already been busy, I should say, this offseason. Their team, I guess, technically has gotten smaller because they haven't replaced all of the guys that they lost to free agency or anything like that. But they have been busy is what I meant to say. Dave Dombrowski, Sam Fuld, that front office, especially signing Trey Turner, signing Matt Strahm, signing Taijuan Walker, and bringing these guys in to significantly improve the team. Awesome. All great moves. But the NL East has not been just sitting around watching the Philadelphia Phillies get better. So, yes, very excited about what the Phillies have done, but the Mets aren't lying down. And neither, because of reports today, are the Atlanta Braves. We'll get to that in a second, but let's talk through what the Mets have done this offseason if you're not familiar, because they've been busy. I know the Phillies have brought in Turner, and they brought in Walker from the Mets, and they brought in Matt Strahm from the most recently the Boston Red Sox. Of course, Trey Turner was with the Dodgers. Here's what the Mets have done this offseason, because they went ahead and they signed Justin Verlander, bring him in to pair him with Max Scherzer. They go out and they get Jose Quintana. So now that rotation, you've got at the top Quintana, who was one of the top trade deadline targets this past season. I believe he was an all-star. I believe with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm not 100% sure, but he was all-star caliber if he wasn't an all-star. So that's their rotation now at the top. Unbelievably good. They went out and they signed, of course, our old pal David Robertson, who hurt himself jumping up and celebrating a home run. I know he's near the end of his rope. He's very much in the twilight of his career, but had a really good season last year with the Cubs before coming to the Phillies and being serviceable with the Phillies in the short time they used him. And then they also signed Brandon Nimmo, who was a big part of I wanted Brandon Nimmo to go somewhere else so bad because I hate the way he plays the game. I hate it. If I was his coach, I would love it. But because I'm an opposing fan, I absolutely hate it. I hate the way he sprints to first base after he draws a walk. I hate the way he runs around the bases like a weirdo. I hate the way he plays the game. He's a big-time hate-the-face guy for me. He is back in New York. So they went ahead and they re-signed Brandon Nimmo to 8-year deal. So the Mets have made some moves. They're throwing around money like only Steve Cohen can, and they're in a situation to compete once again for the NL East. Now, I thought they won it this past year. They had the lead for like so long of the season. I was sure they had won the division. Did they not? There's no way the Mets collapsed the lead they had in like the middle of the season and didn't win the division. But when I look it up, it says the Braves won the division. That's weird, Mets fans. If you want to let me know in the comments what happened, I'd appreciate it. But yes, the Braves are the defending NL East champions. They haven't been quiet either. Now, Dansby Swanson has not been signed. Not sure where he's going. Not sure what's going on. He just had his wedding. He got married to Mallory Pugh, who's a U.S. women's national soccer team player. So looked like, saw some pictures from that wedding. Looked nice. I'm a Dansby Swanson fan. I know he's a Brave, and that's blasphemy. I loved him at Vanderbilt. I loved him as a prospect coming out. And I think he's a really, really good baseball player. And the times I've interacted with him, a really, really good guy. But Dansby Swanson, not yet anywhere. He's still available, so we'll see if he goes back. But the Braves made their first big strike today. They went ahead and they are acquiring Sean Murphy from the Oakland Athletics. So this is 2 straight off seasons where the Braves have gone out and got the Athletics' best player. Matt Olson last year to replace Freddie Freeman. And this year, well, Sean Murphy is now a member of the Atlanta Braves. I haven't yet seen the terms of the trade. But here's what Sean Murphy did last year in 2022. Batted .250 with 18 home runs, 134 hits and 537 at-bats, 3.5 WAR. A good defensive catcher. And listen, he's only been in the major leagues for 4 years. His age, he's 28. So you got a really good 28-year-old catcher who, I mean, he's not awesome at the dish. He hasn't really come into his own totally at the major league level. I feel like he's got a little bit more of a ceiling to go, but he's a talented young backstop that now the Atlanta Braves get. Now, this is not the Matt Olson trade. Matt Olson is a significantly better baseball player than Sean Murphy, like significantly. But what this is it's another quality player added to the Atlanta Braves as they try to re-up their roster. Because unlike the Mets, who are losing a bunch of guys, the Braves' talent lies in guys they've already locked down. Alex Anthopoulos, their GM down there, has been really good about giving their young players contracts early. Michael Harris locked down. Spencer Strider locked down. A bunch of other guys, like Austin Riley's locked down. Ronald Acuna obviously locked down. Like, they've got these guys squared away for the long haul. So you're going to see a long time before the Braves have a full-on rebuild on their hands. But this is more of a retooling, and they've started as well. So I don't know. We're at one point later in the offseason, we're going to have a breakdown once the dust settles a little bit more on what's going on in division of where the teams rank, and we'll be doing crossovers. I'm sure we'll do the roundtable again with all of the other Locked On hosts from the division like we did last year. That'll be fun to check in with the folks on Locked On Nationals, Locked On Marlins, Locked On Mets, Locked On Braves. So we will discuss that. We will get to hold the NL pennant during that little roundtable, so that'll be fun. But you can put the Marlins out of your head. You can put the Nationals out of your head. They're bottom feeders. But when you look at what the top 3 teams in the three-headed monster of the NL East is doing, I've been calling them the NL East. I might have been calling them the NFC East. I don't think so. But if I did, apologies. It's football season. Go Birds. The Eagles are 12-1. But anyway, back to Locked On Phillies. Well, there have been some moves made around the division to make these other teams also more competitive or as equally competitive as they were last year, both the Mets and Braves winning 100 games. So this isn't just a situation. Don't get too caught up with what the Philadelphia Phillies are doing. Now, the Phillies are doing amazing things. They've had a better offseason than the Braves. They've had a comparable one to the Mets. You can argue it's better. You can argue it's slightly worse. It depends on who you ask and what your opinion is on the players. But the division is making waves. They're trying to keep up. They're trying to compete, depending on what team you're talking about. They're trying to repeat if you're looking at the Atlanta Braves or the Phillies in relation to the National League pennant. So that's just the kind of landscape of the other teams reloading in the NL East. It's like a 3-way heavyweight boxing match, and you're just watching the other guys stretch out in each corner. You're like, wow, that guy's jacked, and that guy's jacked, and I've been in the gym, and I've been putting on weight. This is going to be a bloodbath. That's all I think about when I look at the top 3 teams in the NL East and what's coming in 2023. So there's your little update. Coming up next, we're going to do this next segment. Well, I haven't talked about Trey Turner's introductory press conference. I haven't gotten a chance to because of a little bit of the drawbacks of the technical difficulties last week. We're going to jump into some of the things he talked about, his demeanor, his fresh new haircut, everything from Trey Turner's introduction as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. Coming up next on Locked On Phillies. All right, let me tell you a little bit about my friends over at BetOnline because they're the absolute best. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. They've got it all at BetOnline.net. Let me give you a little tip. There's a new favorite for MVP in the National Football League, and it's your boy Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. If you're a Birds fan, and I know if you're a Phillies fan, you should be a Birds fan. You should be 4 for 4. You should be following the Eagles when you're not zoned in on Locked On Phillies. Shout out to my friends over at Locked On Eagles and Lou DiBiase, who's working over there. Appreciate him and what he's doing for Locked On Network. But go ahead and check out those odds at BetOnline. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, let's talk a little Trey Turner, shall we? Like we haven't done enough talking about Trey Turner already, but we're going to be doing a lot of Trey Turner talk over the next 11 years. 11 years. Right now, I am 28 years old. So this would have been, I wouldn't have been able to drive maybe when, if we went 11 years in the reverse, 17 years old. Wouldn't have, well, I guess I would have been done. I was a freshman in college at 17. I was young for my grade. So I would have been a freshman in college. I would have been able to drive, but man, that's forever ago. 11 years is a long time. So we'll have plenty of Trey Turner content coming your way. But he was just introduced as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies last week. Again, hadn't got the chance to talk about it because of some technical difficulties. He said a couple things that were really, really interesting to me. The first thing that stood out to me was how much he cares about the guys here and the fun that they're having. He said that the teams that he's been on that have been really, really good have been teams that they've done stuff together. They've gone out together in between games. They have activities together. On the road, they're together. They're not just all doing their own thing in the hotel. Like, they're tight. They have celebrations in the dugout. They have fun during practice. They genuinely enjoy each other's company. And what he said was he saw that from the Philadelphia Phillies during their run to the World Series in 2022. This core, it's funny. If we were having this conversation in June, or I guess let's call it May of 2022, be like, man, there's not that much personality on this team. They don't really do all that much. Kind of like they got some good players, but they don't really seem like totally a team right now. And then all of a sudden, Rob Thompson takes over. And then they start winning. And even then, down the stretch, you still get the sense of like, Philly isn't bought in on this team yet. And then they go on that magical postseason run. And all of a sudden, they're Philadelphia's darlings. But a lot of the season, I didn't get the impression that this team looked like a fun one to be a part of. They looked like a talented one. They didn't look like they truly opened up and started having fun until they got in. And I guess that's the pressure of an 11-year playoff drought. I'm not faulting the Phillies at all for their demeanor during the season. Look at the result. They got into the playoffs. They made it to the World Series. Whatever they did was working. So this is not a knock. I'm just saying I can remember thinking in the middle of the season, this team doesn't look like they're having that good of a time. And then everything flipped come postseason and come that playoff run. And it was just light. It was exciting. It was the young players really very much embodying that. They don't know what they're up against, so they're enjoying it instead of pressing and having the pressure on them and everything. It was awesome. And Trey Turner clearly saw that too and wanted to be a part of it. It's not the only thing he saw, though. He also mentioned watching those games at Citizens Bank Park on TV. In fact, Matt Strom, who also was introduced last week, mentioned the same thing, saying that he had heard how loud it was through the TV. But Trey Turner said that same thing. He said that it was incredibly loud. You could hear through the TV even just how crazy that atmosphere inside Citizens Bank Park was. I told you during the playoff run, and I know it kind of came back and bit me when I said the Astros were going to have trouble at Citizens Bank Park. Well, they did lose 7-0, and then they went ahead and threw a combined no-hitter. So not great. What are you going to do? I still think it was the toughest environment they played in, or any team would have to play in at any point. And it's only going to get tougher as the Phillies get better. Like this year with Trey Turner, if the Phillies go on another run like that, it'll be even louder in Citizens Bank Park. So stuff to look forward to. But Trey Turner mentioned that run and the crowd and the atmosphere and how this city embraced this team and how he wants to play here rather than play against it. So that was another factor, not just the fun the team was having, but the way that this city supports this team. He did mention as well that he's already been on the phone with Kyle Schwarber. This is another fun tidbit. He talked about already talking to Kyle Schwarber on the phone, who was a holdover teammate of his when he was in Washington. They crossed slightly before Trey Turner went ahead and headed to Los Angeles. So they talked on the phone and talked about the leadoff position. And Trey Turner joked and was like, well, he did steal some bases last year and everything like that. It's pretty fast, so I don't know how that'll work. But he echoed probably what Schwarber would tell you. It doesn't matter. I'm comfortable batting anywhere. I'm okay with batting somewhere else in the lineup. And I'm sure Schwarber's saying the same thing. But the fact that they've already talked to each other about it shows that there's no misconception of the situation. You know, there'll be times in sports where let's say it's basketball. I'm just flipping over. Let's say it's the Sixers and it's basketball. And you've got two really good point guards. And they come in and the whole media might be talking about, hey, this could be the guy or that could be the guy, or they're going to have to pick one of these guys, or one of these guys is going to have to change position. And then the players just seem to ignore it. Like, I'm not concerned with that. I'm not worried about it. We'll work it out. This, that, and the other thing. I'm focused on myself. I'm focused on my game. It'll work itself out. That's someone else's decision. That's one way of handling it. And there's something to be said about focusing on things you can control. But I like the approach better of saying, hey, we understand there's going to be conversations about the leadoff spot. We understand we'd both be good in that leadoff spot. And Schwarber hit 46 home runs there last year. Trey Turner's batting .302 career. He's like your textbook fast leadoff hitter, plays shortstop, just kind of fits the mold. They're not hiding from what's going to be one of the biggest questions heading into the 2023 season is how Rob Thompson sets that lineup and who mainly is in the leadoff spot. So good dialogue there. And obviously the guys are friendly. And it seems that they're both very willing to accept whatever the outcome may be, whatever's best for the team. So that's great. No egos there. That's absolutely awesome. Now, was a little bit of ego from Trey Turner. He doesn't seem like an ego guy, a cocky guy, anything like that at all. But he did get a fresh new haircut, and he had to mention that as well. So he got the nice little sides cleaned up and everything, had the top flip going. Man looked sharp. Man looked like a shortstop that you'd give 11 years, $300 million to. And he seemed to really, really be excited about being here in Philadelphia. He said the fan base won him over with the run that they were on. And I'm sure that run had a big effect on his decision whether or not to be here in Philadelphia. So that's my takeaways from the Trey Turner press conference there as an introductory press conference to being a member of the Philadelphia Phillies and meeting the Philadelphia media and fan base and everybody for the first time. So that's your Trey Turner segment of the day, of which there will be many more both this offseason, hopefully years to come. And hopefully in October next year, we're going to be discussing a lot of great things Trey Turner's doing for this organization. Now, coming up next, wow, I dropped the ball a little bit, okay? I know technical difficulties, a lot of stuff going on, but the Advent Calendar, we got some days to make up. We're going to jump right into today's clue, and I'll tell you what I'm doing to make up those days. So I know we missed a couple. Also switching to 3 episodes a week. We're going to have to go with a couple of just Twitter-related Advent Calendar ones. I'll explain all of it coming up next as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Okay, let me tell you about my friends over at Simply Safe. Here on Locked On Phillies, and here with Connor Thomas, we believe that home should be where you and your family feel safest, especially around the holidays, right? This is a tough time of year to do that, though. You normally feel safe around the holidays, so it's a false sense of security. Well, not false if you get Simply Safe, but if you don't have them, here's some things you should know. It's one of the biggest times for package thefts, one of the biggest times of the year for break-ins, because think about it. You're traveling, you're not home a lot. People trying to steal your stuff know you're getting a lot of nice, expensive things delivered to your house for presents for the holidays. So you got to be absolutely prepared. Let me tell you why Simply Safe is the only home security system I recommend. They've got sensors, cameras, video doorbell stuff, They've got everything you need. They got 24/7 monitoring from agents who will respond, and they have advanced technology that is just so tuned in. They know whether it's the Christmas tree fell through the front window or someone actually is breaking into your house. All right? Not sold yet? Listen, I trust them with my mom and my dog's life back home. I always think it's funny when I list those two of it because I imagine someone out there might be like, yeah, those aren't exactly on the same par. Well, first off, I love my dog. Love my mom too. And obviously, love my mom more, but it doesn't matter. I don't have to choose. Simply Safe will protect all of them. You're in the house, you're protected by Simply Safe. You're in the yard, you're protected by Simply Safe. They got everything they need that you need to secure your property, your possessions, and everything for the holiday season. And don't miss your chance to save big on my favorite security system. Get 40% off any new system at simplysafe.com/lockedonMLB today. That's simplysafe.com/lockedonMLB because there's no safe like Simply Safe. Okay, so we missed a couple days of the Advent calendar. I believe the last clue I gave you was the best double play duo in Philadelphia Phillies history, which was, of course, to me, Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins. Had some comments about Larry Boa and stuff like that. And listen, this is my personal opinion that those are the best two. I think they're both fringe Hall of Fame guys, and Boa obviously in that conversation too. But it's just the combination of Utley and Rollins, I think, was the best you're going to have in franchise history so far. Who knows what Bryson Stott and Trey Turner are going to do over the next 5, 7, 10 years. We'll see. But long way to go for that pairing. Anyway, those are the ones, but we've missed some days in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill out some of the days with just some of my favorite Phillies that have already gone by. I'm not going to go back and redo clues or anything like that to make up for days. We're trying to stay on schedule here as best as possible. So let's jump into the clue for today. And this one, it's an easy one, but I wanted to go ahead and throw this player in at some point. So, hey, why not today? And why not on the 12th of December for that? He was an all-star back in the 1996 season for the Philadelphia Phillies when he posted a 3.19 ERA out of the bullpen, 61 games appeared in, and 67 2/3 innings pitched out of the pen. He also fought Barry Bonds one time, and one time he said that I actually look like I got a little bit of velo in the arm. So he said I throw hard once, which is, I don't know what's wrong with his head now, but anyway, I'm not going to give too much away. That's your clue. All-star back in 1996 out of the bullpen for the Philadelphia Phillies. I bet a lot of people are going to get that one, especially if you follow Philadelphia sports media. There's a little hint for you. All right, well, that's the Advent calendar for today. That's your clue. I'll update that on social media. That's all our time for today's Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We are indeed free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Next, make your second listen Locked On Sports Today. Biggest breaking news in all of sports. You're going to have like NFL recap and stuff like that. All the breaking news from big signings around baseball, hockey, and basketball going on. Joel Embiid just dropped 53 on the Charlotte Hornets last night, so maybe they're talking about that. Go ahead and check them out. They're available on YouTube, Odyssey, wherever you get your podcast, just like us here on Locked On Phillies. And please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to Locked On Phillies podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. Do what you got to do. 5 stars that for me. Help me out. Follow us on Twitter at LL_Phillies and me on Twitter at ConnorThomas975. Keep up with all of the offseason content. I really appreciate you helping me grow Locked On Phillies. I hope you're enjoying the offseason content so far. That's all for today's episode, and I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.